everybody. Welcome back to the Matt Report podcast. As always, mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. Join that mailing list. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Today's guest is Iain Poulson of 5,000 different products. I first came across, of course, I've seen his name around. I've seen his products before in the past, but he recently launched a new content initiative, wpcontent.io, and I didn't realize the matrix rabbit hole that I was getting into with all of the stuff that he does. So we talked about that today's episode. And the one revealing thing is, boy, as a developer, he's got this creative passion to go across all of these products and to solve problems for people, which is admirable. But his way of approach is not that different than a creative artist, an artist, a musician. We're going to talk all about that stuff today. Hope you enjoy the episode. Tell Iain thanks for doing the show. All right, let's listen to our sponsors real quick. Are you sick of Google tracking absolutely everything you do, your visitors do, and everyone in your extended family does? Well, I know I was, and I switched to usefathom.com. Use Fathom. Like, I cannot fathom that somebody created such an awesome web analytics piece of software. Usefathom.com. It's an alternative to Google Analytics. It's privacy-focused. It's simple. It's fast. Works great with WordPress. I use it on mattreport.com. I use it on all my properties now. I got rid of the days of logging into Google Analytics and saying, I don't even understand. Am I launching a spaceship here, or do I just want to see how many visitors came to my website? I switched to use Fathom because it was simple. It was fast. It was efficient. I don't need to have all of this disclosure of cookie tracking. In fact, it doesn't track anyone. It's privacy focused. That's why I like it. I also like it because it was made by friend of the show, Paul Jarvis, and his co-founder of Use Fathom. Listen, notably, just as an aside in this ad read, I said on our last show that this was going to be his product, his trophy product, and it has really grown. A lot of people using Use Fathom. You can get it at usefathom.com. Get out of those Google Analytics. Switch to Use Fathom for $14 a month. Usefathom.com. Thanks for supporting the show. And the next sponsor of the show, I can't believe I even have to read this ad copy, but I do what my advertisers say. It's WebDevStudios at WebDevStudios.com. Here's how the ad copy goes. This episode of the Matt Report is brought to you by Tom McFarlane and the rest of the engineering team at WebDevStudios! From small business to enterprise, WebDevStudios does it all. WordPress design and development, strategy, migrations, ongoing support, maintenance, and even hosting. If you want to work with the best, including, maybe not, developers like Tom, reach out to WebDevStudios.com. WebDevStudios.com. If you're looking for a great place to work, hey, listen, they're an amazing WordPress agency. They have a great culture, which is very important to many of us working in these development jobs and these agency jobs. WebDevStudios.com. Maybe you're even a freelancer or a consultant. You have this project in front of you. You're kind of in over your head. Look, I can't deliver this big project. These deliverables are too much for me. Maybe knock on WebDevStudios' door. I'm sure Brad might kick you a little referral commission for sending over some big client. Don't hold me to it, but hold Brad to it. WebDevStudios.com. Thanks for supporting the show.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have a fellow podcaster in the room, but I can tell you that I am just jealous of the English accent. I think that's the one thing I'm missing. I think I could do a lot more downloads a month if I had the English accent. What do you think?
Do you think? I don't know. I think it's to me it's quite middle of the road, but yeah, we've had that said to us because obviously I co-host the Pressing Matters podcast with Jack McConnell, and we're both based in the UK and we're both based in sort of a similar part of the UK, so our accents are similar. Yeah. And I've had feedback a couple of times from people who just basically can't tell us apart, which I'm not sure if that's the right dynamic for a co-hosting podcast.
That might be tough.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about all these things today. I want to talk about podcasting. I want to talk about all of the stuff that you do. You're working for Delicious Brains. You do work, or you have worked, for Saturday Drive, the fine folks over at Ninja Forms. You make about 7,000 WordPress plugins, I think is the accurate number I saw on WordPress.org. Of course, the podcast and this new initiative. What really sort of jogged my memory to get you on the call today is the WPContent.io initiative, and I want to talk all about this stuff. But how do you introduce yourself to people when they ask you what you do?
Oh, yeah, that is a good question, because I think it's changed over time. Like I probably will always call myself a WordPress developer, but, running my own plugins and, my own stuff, I feel like the transition is made more into a business owner, but I still, my day-to-day development work and, client work is for Delicious Brains. So I'm a developer over there, but I'm slowly transitioning into more of a product manager role as we kind of shift around our resources and free me up from some of the day-to-day development on the sites.
And they have a suite of products. Which one are you normally touching?
I'm actually not on any product as such, but I've been in charge for a while now of the sites. So we sell our WordPress plugins on deliciousbrains.com, and that's running WooCommerce with a very customized and heavily bespoke subscriptions plugin that handles all of our auto renewals and all of that stuff. And so that's kind of, in terms of development wise, it's as big as one of our own products to keep on top of and keep adding new features and things to make it better for our customers, and to make it easier for releasing new features and adding things like Composer support, so customers can use Composer for our premium plugins, and all of that stuff is built into the API of the site. So it's a big development task, and we've also got spinupwp.com as a marketing site, and the bettersearchandreplace.com site. So yeah, there's quite a bit of dev across those three, but yeah, it's not product development anymore, which is good. Yeah.
With your other products, so here's like the big sweeping question that I'm really interested in, and maybe others, when they see your, if they don't know who you are, they've never met you before, and they listen to this podcast and they look at your portfolio of responsibilities, your work at Delicious Brains, all of your other plugins, the podcast. I mean, from myself, I do a lot too. I mean, you're catching me at a time where I'm jobless for 2 weeks. Right? I'm just transitioning away from Pagely and now going to Castos and Seriously Simple Podcasting, and they're going to help them with all of their podcasting stuff there. But, I have Mariport, I do plugin, I do a lot of content creation. I have a small plugin called Easy Support Videos and Conductor plugin, but I'm not a developer. For me anyway, it's more management and content creation than it is like critical code thinking and deployment and like doing, the nitty gritty work. How do you find that balance across so many different things?
Yeah, I think at the moment, especially during the last few months where we've had the global situation with COVID-19 and we've had a couple of months of lockdown in the UK, I feel like I've kind of buried my head from that world situation in work, and I've just tried to crack on with things that have been on my to-do list for a while, and I've tried to just try to be as productive as possible. But yeah, because I've got two main plugins that require support, updates, and new features. Those kind of get worked on in the later hours of the day once the kids are in bed, and in the early hours of the morning sometimes. But I've started trying to outsource, really, because like it is just me, and if you try and take on too much, it's a recipe for burnout. So I've gone through a recent phase of trying to hire just some outsourced development help for my other plugin, which is WP User Manager, which is a free core plugin but has lots of add-ons. And I've been hiring a couple of developers basically from Upwork to try and push new add-on development forward, because if it was just left to me, it would be impossible. And I'm fielding customer support most days where people are asking for certain features that don't exist yet, and I can see that there's a need to grow that plugin and the add-ons around it, and that isn't that it's not feasible for me to do it outside of sort of the day-to-day job that I'm doing with Delicious Brains. So I think I need to manage and have outsourcing capabilities.
So let's just again set the stage. So WPUserManager.com is one plugin. You have Integrate.io, that's Instagram connection to your WordPress site. We've already mentioned WPContent.io, which is a content initiative. We'll talk about that in a moment. You have WPAppStore.com, which isn't a plugin. It was a plugin at one point, right? Or now it's not. And then you have Sellwire.net.
Oh yeah. Yeah, now you're you're listing. Yeah,
so I'm like, man, this guy's from the Matrix. Like, this guy's able to do it. My question is, as a business owner myself, is how do you like manage the expectations of yourself and hiring people from like one of those outsourcing services, whether it be like Codable or
I think that's been a blessing and a curse, being a developer, hiring other developers, because it's kind of in my nature at the moment with Delicious Brains. All through the time I've worked there, we've done code reviews, peer reviews. When we've hired people, we put them on trial, and you're really analysing and going through any code that they produce with a fine-tooth comb to make sure it's it's correct, it's doing the right thing, it's coded in the right way of doing things, it's safe and it's sanitized, and all of these kind of things that you pull up in code review. And when I'm hiring someone to help me, I will do the same. And they're perhaps not aware that their new client is going to be so forensic with their code, and that's been hard. It's been a challenge to actually find people that are, I don't know, that they're not up to the challenge, but they're actually good enough to produce the code and then get it, continue doing it. And I'm not saying I'm creating huge boundaries of stuff, but as you said, I'm perhaps other people who are just hiring, they're business owners and they're hiring developers to produce a thing. The business owner won't ever see or perhaps care how that is constructed. But because I'm trying to, I'll end up having to support the add-ons that are being developed or build on top of them. I want to make sure they're right from the get-go, because otherwise I'm just paying for technical debt. But yeah, when you started listing Sellwire and getting to it's deep and dark. With WP App Store is a funny one, because as you said, it was a plugin. It was originally developed. WP App Store was a Brad Tunar thing.
Yeah,
he created the App Store plugin.
It was like his first go at like WordPress businesses, right? Because he had Addy had invested in him for this product.
Exactly, many moons ago. And then when that kind of pivoted, he turned it into a deals site. So it was he'd made so many connections with theme and plugin businesses that were, going to or had already been on the App Store, which was, a plugin that you had in your dashboard, and you could one-click buy and install premium themes and WordPress plugins, which, still to this day is a great idea. It's just not possible within WordPress's playground.
Well, it's called Jetpack. Let's be real.
yeah. Let's not go down that road, Matt. We're not talking about that. But yeah, so he pivoted to a deal site, and because he had all of the connections with product businesses who would then advertise to his list of subscribers and blah blah blah. Anyway, when I hadn't even worked for Brad at this point. I saw he was selling it. I knew him from Twitter, and at the time, I think I had an idea of turning it into kind of like a marketplace, like a WordPress specific marketplace for plugin developers, and like a Code Canyon or something. And WP App Store was a great domain, and I thought let's just get it, see what I can do with it, and then potentially grow it into this thing in the future. And of course, that never happened.
Right.
And I've been running it as a deals site for a number of years, and it's more of a blog now with less deals, but it's not necessarily one of my primary business concerns, but it's a good source of traffic. It does some affiliate business, and I'm kind of happy to keep it ticking over in the back burner, on the back burner. And sellwire.net is again, they're long stories. They're funny. This was something that I had been using as a customer when I first released the pro version of my Instagram plugin Integrate. I didn't really even know that, like, I don't think easy digital downloads existed, and WooCommerce seemed kind of scary at the time. So I needed somewhere to sell the plugin, and I'd been following on Twitter a guy called Gilbert Pellegrom for a while, who coincidentally now works for Delicious Brains. But he was, when you talk about in the matrix and super productive people, he is a robot, and he is probably best known for the Nevo slider plugin, which, whenever this was back in 2011, 2012, he was riding that wave of sliders. They're not quite as popular now, and he built Sellwire as a way to just sell his plugins, and I then started using it, and it's a very, very simple e-commerce solution where there's no cart, there's no checkout. If you're a seller, you upload a file like a WordPress plugin zip, you set a price, and you now have a link to share to people, and they can then buy it. So it's just a case of putting that link on your website, and you don't have to worry about the e-commerce stuff. You've connected PayPal or Stripe, and that's how you get paid. And the person who buys it gets the download link of your plugin. And I was using that I still am, for selling my Instagram plugin. And when Gilbert then moved to using easy digital downloads for his own stuff, and Sellwire wasn't a concern for him anymore, I acquired it for less cost than it would have, or less money that it would have cost me to actually move all of my stuff and migrate customers to a new solution, and the time it would have taken me. I run Sellwire in the background, basically to allow me to sell my own thing. But interestingly, that's been pretty dormant as a project for a while. Like, it doesn't get a lot of signups and customers, even though it's a full-blown SaaS app. But interestingly, during lockdown, I think people are there's an influx of people looking to sell things and looking to make a living online, and so it's actually seen quite a rise in customers recently, which is good, but also bad at the same time, because it's another time pool. So yeah.
So I mean, we sort of covered how you technically manage and set these expectations across the many projects, but when you take a step back, when you do have a moment to breathe, I mean, I'm sort of looking at your body of work and matching it up to my body of work, which is more like content creative stuff with a dose of some software, and yours is much heavier on the software side with a dose of content, I guess you could argue. But when I take a step back, I'm like, man, sometimes I get burned out from making WordPress tutorials on, youtube.com/plugintut. I'm like, I just can't make another tutorial. This is not sparking the creative energy. And then I shift to something else that's a little bit more creative, or something that I have a little bit more control over. And that might be, let's say, like my local podcast. There's less expectations to like knock something like that out of the park. And I can just work on it, enjoy it, and get an episode out, talk to a local entrepreneur, and it kind of just reignites my energy. How do you balance that from like a creative, like you look back and you say, boy, maybe I'll spend a month on Sellwire, and then next month I'll dip back into WP User Manager? Like, is there a balance of where you want to shift that creative energy to push one of these forward?
Yeah, I think I've recently tried to work on sprints where I would be spending time outside of sort of client work, just pushing forward one piece of, or one product, or a piece of a product. So WP User Manager has a couple of add-ons in development, and I need to get them finished. I need to get all the documentation. I need to get them on the website and get them sold and tested and everything. So that's kind of maybe a current focus. And then once that's done, I need to then shift to a big feature on the Instagram plugin. And instead of trying to do loads of things in parallel, which is, along with Pressing Matters and WP content and client work, it just means I'm multitasking to a point where it's untenable. So yeah, I'll try and focus on one bit at a time and then get it done and move to the next, but not maybe set any time expectations, because as I said, a lot of it is outside of working hours and trying to fit that in around family life and everything, which isn't always easy. So yeah, but then what you were saying about getting burnt out and then getting a bit more amped up about a new creative thing or turning your attention to something that's easier to knock out, I struggle with that as well, because I end up seeing, like, a customer might email me about WP User Manager and say, can it do this? And it can't at the moment. And I start thinking, well, actually, it could do this if I just write this bit of code and I could actually just connect these two things. And then I go down a rabbit hole because it's a challenge and it's like a development challenge. And I'll end up then just shifting all my focus to that, which is not a great way to operate. But it's almost like an inbuilt thing that I can't stop myself from doing, because it's a technical challenge that I want to solve. And it's like, all developers, I guess, have that. They just want to solve a problem with code. And this does sound ridiculous after you've listed all the other things, but I've recently just finished another app that I kind of built out of not a distraction, but it was something that I thought, I could do that, and that would be great to do it, and I could use that app, and maybe I could sell it as another SaaS app. So I've just recently completed it, not quite launched it yet, but yeah, that was a distraction I didn't need to do, but I just found myself doing it, and I've talked about it on the Pressing Matters podcast. Like, it's just something that I can't stop myself, and you get into the zone of building it, and you're in that momentum that you just can't stop. Like, even that night, for example, you'll just continue to do it into the early hours. And I think that's a problem. Yeah. I need help.
I would say that, and I guess what I'll do is I'll continue to challenge you, because I think you can put up a good fight for this. Is I think that the challenge for you, right, or maybe the creative challenge for you, are all of these micro challenges across your many products. Like, you get a feature add-on for WP User Manager one day, the next day you're like, oh, I could really build this cool like view for my Instagram plugin, and then somebody asked for, I don't know, recurring donations for Sellwire. You might, just throwing random stuff out there, and you're like, I can challenge that. There's not one. I would say, I guess my challenge to you is, there's not one business that you're in love with. Is that fair to say? Like, do you love selling digital products? Do you love integrating Instagram? Or is it more of the technical challenge in addressing a market that you're really in love with?
I think probably the former, just purely because a lot of, like, the Instagram plugin came from, a need that I had, and it scratched an itch because I wanted to automatically post anything that I posted on Instagram to WordPress and just create like a WordPress blog. It's because the integrate isn't a feed or a widget. It will actually physically go and get the Instagram image or video that you just posted on Instagram and create it as a post, and it will attach it, it'll put it in the media library. So it's like a republishing of your Instagram content. Yep. So that was something I needed at the time, and I loved solving the problem, and I have found ever since then, I just have this, not a love of APIs, but the fact that you can go and connect to all these different services and get them talking to each other through APIs. That right. That has definitely been not a fascination, but it's been a good thing to be able to control and use and make something from it. But obviously that comes with its downsides, because Instagram's API has had some big changes, and now it's Facebook's API, and they have changed lots of things. So it's never great to sort of have a product dependent on a third-party API, but hey-ho, we're here. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I bring that up because that's how I challenge myself, right? When I'm starting to do something, and again, I don't have the abilities of being able to custom code something. I mean, I can do a lot with WordPress, and WordPress affords me a lot of opportunity to do some crazy things. Of course, with plugins, page builders, ACF, blocks, all this fun stuff. You can do some crazy things, APIs, Zapier, et cetera, et cetera. You can feel pretty powerful for sure. But then what I'll do is, maybe even like yourself, you spend a weekend building this kind of new cool idea or content platform, and then you get distracted, you get busy again for a week, and then you come back to it and you're like, I don't really love this. Like, I don't love this at all. Right. I mean, I remember spending a whole weekend once building out this collection of I was buying up all these like local domains for lawyers and attorneys, and I was going to just probably end up using something like WP User Manager to have them build out these profiles and microsites. And I spent time, money, and effort. And then like I got busy for a week. I came back to it like, this is not what I want to do. Like, why did I just waste this time? And I didn't really love it. I didn't love solving the idea for attorneys and law firms. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just got that creative juice to create something. And it was just a little roller coaster ride for a weekend. And then I kind of threw it away, which is, I guess part of the game, I guess.
I think it's the balance, or knowing the difference between the fact that you can do something rather than that you should do it. Right. Because, we know that we could do that, and actually that could be a business, but should we do it? Do we love it? And yeah, I think like for sure, WP App Store isn't something that I love doing anymore. And I'm blogging less, and managing content on a site isn't something that gets me up in the morning, but selling digital products, I do love that, and I love the feeling of people buying something that you built a while ago, and you're not trading hours for money. And WP User Manager is probably the thing that I should be concentrating the most on, because actually it's the more successful in terms of revenue out of all my projects. So that is where I'm trying to sort of wrangle my focus. But yeah, I mean, that came out of a desire to have more digital products to sell, because the Integrate plugin was something I built, and I could see that at the time that solution didn't exist. But now in 2020, how many plugins are out there to do things? And it's a case of, you can't necessarily think of an idea that would then sell after you built it. So acquiring WP User Manager that was already established, was already in the space, the plugin niche of community, membership, profile, that kind of site, and it was already doing good business, seems like it was a good play just to have that another revenue stream, another focus. But actually, I think it's got a lot of potential for growth. So yeah, selling digital products is definitely a big focus and drive for the future.
Hey, speaking of not liking to wrangle content and create content, pressingmatters.fm and wpcontent.io. Let's talk about that. Lots of content creation happening. I want to start with the podcast first. There's many WordPress podcasts. And it's great. There's lots of different types of podcasts. I find that, at least from my perspective, the ones that are more developer focused are ones that always do really well, given the profile of most WordPress users, most passionate WordPress users being developers. And I noticed that the byline or the tagline for Pressing Matters is "Welcome to Pressing Matters, a podcast talking about what matters most to WordPress developers and WordPress business owners." I always find that's a challenge, and I'm curious for your feedback, because there's a lot of people in my audience who are business owners first and developers second. And I find that when they're developers first, the whole business conversation is not so interesting to them. Have you had a lot of feedback with marketing and selling and talking the business angle of WordPress on your show? And do you find that a lot of developers are like, yeah, business, it's whatever. I just want to build. I just want to code.
I feel like we've had less feedback than I would want, to know, what our episodes are. What are they doing for people? Are they enjoying them? Is the content too developer focused, too business focused? So that's maybe a challenge. Maybe that's just a case or due to how relatively new we are. But also, I think, you brought up the tagline. I do think when we started it and the idea that we had for it and how we envisaged it is not how it's grown over time. The original idea was, the Apply Filters podcast that was Brad Tinar and Pippin Williamson was the only podcast I remember listening to back in the day, and it was because it was a WordPress development podcast. And when that kind of disappeared, it did feel like there was, it would be something that other people would still want to listen to. So that was the idea. And the WordPress business owner side to it is more geared towards plugin business owners, I guess, and that isn't very clear because Jack and I both are in the same boat. We have, a day job of client work, as it were. He's almost an agency, and I'm a product development for other clients. But we have our own plugin businesses. So a lot of the conversations is just the challenges around that, challenges around support or maybe outsourcing hiring. So WordPress business owners is perhaps too broad, and we should make the niche clearer. But then also, as it's grown, our episode structure and what we talk about just completely varies from episode to episode. We're very probably going off on tangents is a nice way of saying it, but rambly is another way. And we just have, it's almost like it's just a conversation between me and Jack that can go anywhere and talk about anything, and we record it, and we do try and treat it as almost like a mini mastermind between us, where we're talking about things we're doing for our plugins and like what improvements we should make. And if people listen and they kind of get any benefit from it, then great. So yeah, the podcast's a funny thing because I do really love doing it, and I don't feel like it's content creation. It's just we're having a chat and Jack edits it up, and then I put it on the website, and we do it again 2 weeks time, kind of thing. It's weird, but it's fun. Have you listened to it, Matt?
Yeah, I was actually starting to listen to your last few episodes after we booked the call. I will agree that sometimes it is hard to decipher who's who when you two are going at it. But no, I mean, listen, I think that being in the podcast space for so long, I know a lot of podcasters selfishly start podcasts to learn from others and to connect with others, and that's fine. And I think eventually they get their legs under them and they understand that they should be serving the audience. I'm not saying that you're not serving an audience, but I'm just pontificating on what other podcasters do. But also, what I think is healthy is that it gives you that. Like you said, it's a mastermind. I like to say it's like a therapy session where you get to talk out a lot of these things. So when you're at a crossroads of which product of yours to work on in a given week or a given day, you have somebody to bounce those ideas off of. And I think that's actually what makes great podcasts is we get to explore the decision-making going on in your head. Right? Because there's a lot of us out there who come to the same crossroads, although maybe not at the same volume, but we come to the same crossroads. Do I work on A or B? How would Iain figure it out? Maybe how I would figure it out is the same way, or maybe I would take a different approach. And I think that creates effectively great content, as a byproduct. Even if you're not focused on creating that storyline, you're effectively doing it, which is healthy for you and good for the audience. I would argue. Any other goals with that? One of the things that I found, not that you're asking for advice, but I'll give it to you anyway, as a podcaster. Any other goals? Like, most people maybe transition to a community-based thing, a Slack room. A lot of people start doing virtual summits, of course, given the things where we're at now in the world with COVID. Any other goals like that, or are you just going to keep chugging along, just doing it until you don't like doing it anymore?
I think that, yeah. I'm not sure we've both got the time to go any further with it, and I think I don't feel like we've found our feet enough to kind of transform it into anything bigger than perhaps just a chat between the two of us. I think because obviously the COVID situation, I've been, up until it happened, I've been running a local WordPress meetup in the town that I live in and organising that every month, and obviously in person meetups. And since since the COVID situation has happened, other local meetups have tried to go online, or they have gone online and they've done online meetups and trying to push the community forward that way. But it's something that I just don't. It's not that I'm not passionate about it, but I just don't have the time to then also do that. And whereas sitting down and turning on record and having a chat to Jack for 40 minutes is very doable, but all of the organisation around other things. So yeah, I think we're just keen to keep going and pushing out episodes and trying not to fall into the trap of going, I'm starting a podcast, and then 5 episodes later you're never heard from again, kind of thing. Because we enjoy it perhaps more than our 3 listeners do, kind of thing. So it's worthwhile for us to continue. And we've actually got a sponsor for the rest of the episodes of this year, which is good. We've got FastSpring, fastspring.com as our sponsor. So we've had to slightly change how we produce the content. We've done some promotional, I guess, content slots that we use throughout the episodes now that are FastSpring related. So we've had to kind of work out the best way of doing that because it's slightly outside of our usual rambly chat. So it's good. And
how did you stumble upon getting a sponsor? Did you seek them? Did they seek you?
They sought us purely because one of their developers was a listener, and we kind of had like a sponsor page on the website, but we never mention it. And we don't do it for the sponsorship, or we can't it's not that we can't sustain it without sponsorship, and it's just to us it's a nice byproduct of it. So they reached out to us, and we then worked out how to best promote their content, or their service within our content. And yeah, it's good. I think we're only 1 episode that's been released which has 2 now that has their sponsor stuff in it. But that's been really great, and they're good folks, and I'm learning more about how actually a lot of WordPress businesses use FastSpring. And yeah, every time I have a headache about tax, or like in Europe and England, there's the VAT and the EU VAT, and it's such a hassle running a small business that something like FastSpring makes me just think, oh, please take it all away from me, all this hassle.
Iain Poulson sliding in an ad read on someone else's podcast. First time that's ever happened. Thanks, Iain.
You're welcome.
And
you're very
FastSpring for sponsoring
the
show. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care. Cool. That's going to take me. That's going to take me to the meat of the conversation, or the last question topic, because you have so many. WPContent.io. This is what many folks might remember, because it's only been, I think, a month or so. ManageWP.org, which was a community of content sharing. I used to say it's sort of similar to Dig of the past. For those of you who are older than 20, I don't even know what the age range was. I forget. Dig is probably pretty old, right, for most listeners. But what it doesn't do, what I haven't found a site to do, is to really celebrate the content creator who created the content on the platform, right? So if somebody's out there creating original content, there should be a way to rank that person up. And as you know, creating a podcast is hard work. Creating a blog post, if it's really good, is hard work. Creating videos, hard work. Is there a way to celebrate the original content creator on these types of platforms? Some kind of verified check mark, right? I am the originator of this content. Give them some bonus points, damn it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But why this? Why this platform? Why is it just a happenstance? Manage WP went away, and this is a great time to step in.
Yeah, basically. But it's ManageWP.org was something I'd used for a long time, and I did enjoy it, similar to yourself. And it was something that I really liked to find WordPress news articles, anything cool on there. And I would post on there, and I think, you mentioned the karma system. They had this points ranking system. So the more you posted, the stronger was your upvote strength. And you could, like there was some super users, I guess, that once they upvoted an article, it went straight to the popular page. That algorithm behind it. But I did enjoy finding content just through Twitter or whatever that people were putting out there, and then cross-posting it onto Managed WP and seeing it go popular. And it was a great place to, when I started producing my own content, to share that and get exposure and traffic from. So I love the idea, and I love the site. And as soon as I saw it was shut down, it seemed silly not to try to do something else, because I felt me and Ash, because this is a joint thing with Ashley Rich, who we both work together at Delicious Brains, but it's our thing rather than a Delicious Brains thing. But we both felt that there was a need for that type of site still in the WordPress space, and there would be other people who would feel the same. So, the devout Managed WP users, but because I think people treat it as a news site, but there's obviously the big news websites for WordPress or news outlets like WP Tavern and Post Status, but this was different because it was community driven. As much as community posting and upvoting comes with its own problems and challenges with spam and like gamification of it, I think having that community aspect is still important. So we just thought, look, if we're going to do something, we should do it quickly, because maybe somebody else would do the same. And I think, if you're first to the market or the replacement market, it's going to be okay, and you're going to get some traction. And that's kind of what we did. I think we learned about it on a Friday afternoon, which was probably a couple of days after it shut down. And then we built it over the weekend and properly launched it on the Monday. And the launch went really well in terms of exposure and people sharing it and people using it. And we reached out to Managed WP to sort of say, look, you've got your landing page now to say you've closed down, and you're linking to other people like the Tavern and Master WP newsletter, but we are what we'd like to say the spiritual successor of your site. So can you put a link on? And they did, and it's been good. The Tavern covered it as well. So yeah, we would want it to just to grow and continue to be used and continue to be a resource for the community.
And any way that I'm going to get my verified check mark in there anytime soon?
Well, I have noted down that feedback. Yeah.
You filed it in the old circular, what's the statement? The old circular filing cabinet, also known as the trash.
No, to be honest, that is a really good idea. And we have got plans to improve it and to build on it, because it, a very quick and dirty MVP that was put together over a weekend. Like, it's not the best looking site in the world. It works, but it was something that just needed to be simple and effective. So yeah, we've got some plans for it, and the verified users, because it's a bit like Product Hunt, in that people can hunt a product or app or whatever, but it might not be their one. So only when you kind of get tied as you're the creator, then you're actually exposed as that person doing it, and you get that connection. So yeah, I do agree with you. There should be something that says, this is the person that wrote this. This is the content creator, and whether or not that gives you a bit of a stronger karma or whatever, however algorithm we decide to put on it. Because at the moment, it's purely number of upvotes. That's it.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, my friend. This has been Iain Poulson, man of many hats, products, businesses, ideas, creative lessons. Iain, where can folks find you to say thanks?
Thank you for having me. I am Pole Vault Web on Twitter, and polevaultweb.com, which is probably a sorely neglected personal website that has some links to my products. But yeah, Twitter is the place to talk to me, and obviously places like WP Content.io. I'm on there posting and upvoting. I'm
struggling with the title of this episode. It might be like neglect.
Yeah.
I've got this other thing. I've got this other site
Burnout.
which I haven't touched.
Yeah, I feel like I am failing with many things, but whether or not it strikes a chord with other people who are doing the same and they just have too many things on the go. But
listen, it's a sign of a good creator. That's the way that I see it, and a great artist. As I get older, the whole what's cool, $1 billion from the Social Network movie, like that whole trying to take over the world has become less and less and much more about, this is my art, this is what I'm doing, and I don't care if it fails, I don't care what people think to a degree about what's failing, and I'm just going to do it out in the open, and you're either going to accept it or not, but I'll just keep forging my own way. And I think that's what we have to do as great artists.
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
I feel like that's elevating us slightly higher than we deserve, Matt. But yeah, I'm far from a struggling WordPress artist. Like I definitely still want to make ends meet and support the family. But yeah, I gone are the days of building like a unicorn, multi-million, billion-dollar business. Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely.
Everybody else, mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. Join that mailing list. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star on iTunes so we can rank above people like pressingmatters.fm. We want to make sure that we stay on top.